How did Ukraine manage to penetrate the formidable Russian air defenses right in the heart of Moscow? Despite these heavy defenses, multiple drones managed to slip through the system. When the drone's warhead finally impacted the facility, it triggered a massive internal explosion that blew the roof completely off the oil storage tank. So how did the Ukrainians manage to get past the air defenses? The strategy here relies on launching massive swarms of drones and cruise missiles all at once. The goal is simple: overwhelm the Russian air defense grid. While Russian forces intercepted most of the incoming threats using their Pantsir systems, what did Ukraine do? They designed secretive new drones to fly extremely low, slipping right under the radar of both the S-400 and the Pantsir. To back them up, Ukraine also fired home-built, low-budget cruise missiles, specifically designed to hunt down the heat signatures of Moscow's oil refineries. Well, this is how it all started. The drones launched from Ukrainian territory under the cover of clouds, originating from several staging areas near the Ukrainian-Russian border. Ukraine's strategy was designed to completely overwhelm the Russian anti-air defense system. It was called the largest drone attack to date because they launched around 992 fixed-wing drones, frequently rounded up to 1,000, along with about 10 cruise missiles. Flying at a low altitude and programmed to follow the terrain's contours, the lead elements entered Russian airspace, threading their way through the outer defense cordons. As for how far they traveled, Moscow lies roughly 460 to 750 kilometers from Ukraine's eastern front lines, and upwards of 1,000 kilometers from launch points in central Ukraine. These distances put the capital comfortably within the operational radius of the drones. We know that Russia possesses some of the best anti-air defenses in the world, like the S-400 and Pantsir systems. Working together, the S-400 destroyed most of the incoming cruise missiles, but the Pantsir had to do the heavy lifting against the drone swarm. Its onboard computer calculates the target's trajectory and commands the launch of solid-fuel missiles for long-range interception, followed by rapid bursts from dual 30mm autocannons to destroy anything that gets too close. Together, these defenses destroyed around 555 drones in the early morning hours, with about 180 of those shot down as they approached Moscow. In just one night, Ukraine struck more than a dozen Russian regions simultaneously, stretching from Rostov in the south to the Moscow Ring in the center. But what was the secret drone that managed to bypass one of the best air defense networks in the world? For years, Ukraine had been developing the Fury long-range drone. The primary platform was the N-196 Ludier, a $40,000 tail-prop drone developed by Ukraine's Antonov Aerospace firm and associated manufacturers. It essentially acts as a low-cost Tomahawk cruise missile. Roughly the size of a single-engine trainer aircraft, its terrain-following capability is what makes it operationally decisive. Rather than flying a predictable altitude profile that is easily tracked by radar, the Ludier hugs the Earth. It follows rivers, valleys, and tree lines, threading through gaps in radar coverage like a ghost. The Ludier is assembled, armed, programmed, and takes off like an airplane from a regular stretch of road or an airstrip. The launch team then quickly disperses before Russian forces can counterstrike the site. These launches are carefully coordinated, so that several drones enter Russian airspace at the exact same time, alongside other types, including decoys fitted with radar reflectors. Here is exactly how it hit the Moscow oil refinery. As the drones bypassed the final defensive ring around the Kapotnya district, at least one of the munitions made a direct terminal dive into the heart of the facility, specifically targeting the bulk fuel storage and distillation infrastructure. It carries a warhead between 50 kilogram or 110 pounds. This is how the drone's explosive payload detonated upon impact with the heavy steel exterior of a massive fuel storage tank, instantly igniting the highly pressurized and volatile hydrocarbons stored inside. What happened next was a catastrophic internal combustion. The fire rapidly expanded inside the enclosed space, creating an immense localized pressure spike that the structure simply was not built to contain. The explosive shockwave violently sheared the welded seams connecting the tank's walls to its roof. The sheer kinetic force of this blast acted like a cannon, launching the massive disc-shaped steel cover of the storage tank straight into the air. It soared high into the sky like a frisbee amidst a towering pillar of fire. But how exactly did Russia fail to intercept the drones? The first major problem was saturation. Sending hundreds of drones simultaneously across more than a dozen regions required every layer of Russian air defense to engage multiple targets at once. This quickly exhausted their interceptor magazines and radar tracking capacity. Once a Pantsir battery has fired its missiles against 10 drones, it simply cannot stop the 11th. The next issue was altitude and radar profile. The LUDA has a high resistance to jamming and can vary its altitude during flight depending on the terrain below. A drone following a riverbed or a forest canopy at just 20 to 50 meters off the ground is almost completely invisible to radar systems designed to track high-flying aircraft and missiles. By the time ground observers or short-range radars finally detect it, the window to intercept it is merely seconds. Deception also played a massive role. Ukraine coordinated its swarm so that decoy drones fitted with radar reflectors to mimic the signature of real attack UAVs entered the airspace right alongside the actual weapons. Because radar operators cannot reliably distinguish a radar blip decoy from a real drone carrying a shaped charge warhead, they had to engage both. This forced them to waste precious missiles on ghost targets while the real drones closed in on the refinery. Furthermore, the attack utilized advanced final phase guidance. The drones used Starlink-linked communications to allow for first-person view control during the final phase of the strike. Even if Russian electronic warfare degraded the drone's autopilot, a human operator could take manual control in the last moments, actively steering around interceptors or aiming directly into a specific tank or processing unit. Because Russian forces rely on highly advanced electronic warfare, the Ukrainians had to completely change their strategy to cut through the jamming. These systems work by jamming the radio signals between the drone and its pilot, effectively disrupting communication and control. When this happens, the pilot loses the ability to see and control the drone, which can lead to mission failure. To counter these tactics, the Ukrainians have developed an effective solution: deploying an additional drone to act as a signal enhancer. This secondary drone strengthens the connection between the primary drone and the pilot, ensuring a stable link even in the presence of electronic interference. By boosting the signal, this method helps neutralize the impact of the enemy's electronic warfare units. With this enhanced connection, the pilot regains control and can continue to maneuver the drone toward its designated target, maintaining operational effectiveness despite the enemy's attempts to jam communications. But Ukraine also launched a cruise missile capable of tracking the exact heat signature of an oil refinery. If a weapon like this finds its mark, the damage can be catastrophic. But what is a cruise missile? Essentially, it's an unmanned jet. To fly, it needs two main things: lift and fuel. For lift, it relies on these two straight wings located right at the center of the missile, which lock into the wing attachment sockets. The entire central section of the body is dedicated to the fuel tank. This large reservoir holds the jet fuel needed to power the engine for its long journey. But that's not enough to lift the heavy missile. It needs to get off the ground and up to speed. They cleverly attached a solid fuel booster, which is a strap-on rocket motor. When the missile is launched, this booster provides a massive short burst of thrust to accelerate the missile rapidly. Once it's burned out, it detaches and falls away, and the main engine takes over. The main engine needs air to breathe. That air is scooped in through the air intake, which is positioned dorsally on top to reduce the risk of sucking in debris if launched from a low position. This air is funneled directly into the Ichenko 25 turbofan engine. They literally took a Czech trainer jet engine and re-engineered it into a compact, powerful, and efficient engine that compresses the air, mixes it with fuel from the tank, and ignites it. This controlled explosion is blasted out the back at incredible speed through the heated jet exhaust, generating the powerful, continuous thrust that propels the missile to its target, sometimes hundreds of miles away. You also need to stop your data from spam mails, jump calls, and online breaches. This data doesn't just result in spam and scam attempts. It can also affect your insurance rates and ultimately will lead into a loan denial just when you might need credit. Incogni helps protect your privacy by regularly scanning and preventing data brokers from re-uploading your information. You'll also get a clear real-time dashboard to track the status of your data, As an add-on with Incogni Unlimited plans, you can gain access to this custom removal tool. That's where Incogni comes in. Just copy the link of any site exposing your information. Go to the Custom Removals tool, paste the link, and click Submit. That's it. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code AITELI with the link below at incogni.com/AITELI and get 60% off on an annual plan. This is Phase 1, the launch. The mission begins with a violent, instantaneous kick when the missile and its solid fuel booster are fired. This is pure, brutal acceleration. Its only job is to get the missile off the launcher into the air and up to speed in seconds. After just a few seconds, the booster is spent. It detaches, and the missile's entire profile changes. This is Phase 2, the cruise phase. The missile is now in the hands of its digital brain. It uses two systems to navigate. First is its GPS receiver, which is constantly talking to satellites and checking its exact position on the globe. But what if the signal is jammed? That's where the inertial navigation system takes over. The INS is a dead reckoning system. It feels every turn, every climb, and every change in speed. By knowing exactly where it started and tracking its own motion, it can calculate its position without any outside help. Together, a GPS and INS guide the missiles for thousands of miles, flying low and fast to stay under enemy radar. Its straight wings deploy, catching the air, and its jet engine takes over. The missile is now a small, unmanned jet beginning its long, lonely flight. The cruise navigation has done its job. The missile is now at the target area, but its GPS or INS brain can only get it to the general field. It can't pick out a specific tank. For that, the missile needs its eyes. The nose cone, transparent to infrared, opens up, and the imaging infrared seeker activates. This seeker doesn't see visible light, it sees heat. The oil tanks, pipes, and processing units are glowing bright white against the black background. A digital box appears, scanning, and then locks onto one specific bright tank. This is what it sees. The cold area is black, but the target, that specific oil tank, warm from its contents, is glowing like a light bulb. This missile doesn't have a camera like the American Tomahawk, which scans the ground to find a match from an image uploaded before launch. Instead, the Ukrainian missile depends on a combination of inertial navigation, infrared, and GPS to hunt its target. The missile is now autonomous, guided only by what its IR seeker sees. The X-form control surfaces work over time, making microsecond adjustments to keep that glowing heat signature perfectly in the center of its vision. It doesn't matter if the target is slightly left or right of its original GPS coordinates. The missile is no longer following a map. It's following its target. In the final millisecond, the fuse detects impact and instantly detonates the 1-ton or 1,000-kilogram warhead. From a launch miles away, to a long cruise in the dark, to a final hunt guided by heat, the weapon has found its mark. We build every animation from scratch by real human. Subscribe so you never miss a beat.